The US government never wanted this discovered. What if I told you that one of the most important safety devices we use every single day, something that saves countless lives, was invented by a black man whose name was deliberately erased from history? This isn't just a story about an invention. It's a story about a fight for recognition that continues to this day. Every single traffic light you see, every time you stop at a red light or go on green, you are following the command of an invention patented by Garrett Morgan. But who was this man? And why was his legacy almost completely buried? Garrett Augustus Morgan was born in 1877 in Kentucky, the seventh of 11 children. His parents had been enslaved. From a young age, Garrett showed a remarkable curiosity and a brilliant mind for mechanics. He only received a sixth-grade education, but he was determined to learn more. At just 14 years old, he left his family and moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, to find work. He hired his own tutor to continue his education while working as a handyman. His passion was figuring out how things worked, and he spent every spare moment tinkering with machines. Eventually, he moved to Cleveland, a booming industrial city. He started as a sewing machine repairman, and his talent was immediately obvious. He wasn't just fixing machines, he was improving them. He soon saved up enough money to open his own repair shop in 1907. This was just the beginning. In 1909, he expanded, opening a tailoring shop with 32 employees. He invented a new liquid that prevented sewing machine needles from scorching fabric, a common problem at the time. He turned this into his first company, the Garrett Morgan Hair Refining Company, creating a successful line of hair care products. But Garrett Morgan's mind was always working on bigger problems. The world around him was changing rapidly. The early 20th century saw the rise of the automobile, and with it, chaos on the streets. Horse-drawn carriages, bicycles, pedestrians, and the new, sputtering cars all competed for space. Accidents were constant and often fatal. Morgan himself witnessed a horrific crash between a car and a horse-drawn buggy. He knew there had to be a better way. At the time, traffic signals were rudimentary, often just manually operated signs that said stop and go. There was no warning for drivers when the signal was about to change. This abruptness caused countless collisions as drivers couldn't react in time. Morgan envisioned a system that could manage the flow of traffic automatically and, crucially, provide a warning. In 1923, he patented his three-position traffic signal. This wasn't just a stop-and-go system. He added a third, all-directional stop position. This was the ancestor of our modern yellow light. It would halt traffic in all directions, giving drivers a moment to clear the intersection before the cross-traffic was allowed to proceed. It was a revolutionary concept in traffic safety. His design was a T-shaped pole with 3 arms that could be rotated. Unlike previous manual signals, it could be automated, using a timer to control the flow of traffic day and night. The patent was granted, and his invention was an immediate success. Cities were desperate for a solution to their traffic nightmares. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. This was an era of intense racial prejudice. Many city officials and potential buyers were hesitant to do business with a black inventor. Knowing this, Morgan sometimes had to hire a white actor to pose as the inventor during demonstrations, while he himself would pose as a janitor or an assistant, standing in the background explaining how his own invention worked. Can you imagine the frustration, the humiliation, creating something that would save lives, only to have to hide your identity to get it accepted? Despite these obstacles, the superiority of his design was undeniable. He eventually sold the rights to his patent to General Electric for $40,000. That was a massive sum of money at the time, equivalent to over $500,000 today. General Electric then implemented the technology across the country, and the three-light traffic system we know today became the standard. But as it spread, Garrett Morgan's name was often left behind. The credit was absorbed by the corporation, his personal contribution slowly fading from public memory. And if that wasn't incredible enough, the traffic signal wasn't even his most heroic invention. Years earlier, in 1914, Morgan patented another life-saving device, the safety hood and smoke protector. This was an early version of the modern gas mask. It featured a hood worn over the head with a long tube that reached the ground. The principle was simple but genius. Smoke and dangerous gases rise, so the air closer to the floor is more breathable. The tube had a sponge at the end to filter the air. He tried to market it to fire departments, but again, he faced racial prejudice. Many departments refused to even consider a device made by a black man. But in 1916, fate would provide a horrifying opportunity for him to prove its worth. A natural gas explosion occurred in a tunnel being dug under Lake Erie. A crew of workers was trapped 250 feet below the surface, surrounded by smoke, dust, and deadly fumes. 2 rescue teams went in to save them, but were overcome by the gas and never returned. The situation was desperate. Someone remembered Morgan and his safety hood. They called him in the middle of the night. Garrett Morgan and his brother Frank rushed to the scene with their safety hoods. The police and firefighters on site were skeptical, but with no other options, they let them try. Garrett and his brother put on the hoods and descended into the toxic darkness of the tunnel. They navigated the treacherous conditions and emerged carrying survivors on their backs. They went back in again and again, saving several workers and recovering the bodies of those who had not survived. It was an act of incredible bravery. The newspapers the next day hailed it as a heroic rescue. But when they discovered the rescuer was a black man, the tone changed. Some papers tried to downplay his role or give credit to others. Many of the initial orders for his safety hood that had come in from fire departments across the country were suddenly cancelled. The very people whose lives his invention was designed to save turned their backs on him because of the color of his skin. Despite this, Morgan's safety hood was not forgotten. During World War I, the US Army adapted his design to create the gas masks used by soldiers on the battlefields of Europe, protecting them from chemical warfare. His invention saved thousands of lives, both civilian and military. So why don't we all know his name? Why isn't Garrett Morgan celebrated in the same way as Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell? The answer is a painful one. His story was a victim of the systemic racism that sought to diminish or erase the contributions of Black Americans. His genius was undeniable, but the society he lived in refused to give him his due. His patents were bought, his ideas were used, but his name was conveniently left out of the history books. It's only in recent decades that historians and activists have worked to uncover and celebrate his legacy. Garrett Morgan was more than just an inventor. He was a trailblazer, a self-taught genius who overcame poverty and prejudice to create inventions that have saved an immeasurable number of lives. He was a successful businessman, a community leader, and a newspaper publisher. He never stopped fighting for a better, safer world. So, the next time you're sitting at a red light, take a moment to think of Garrett Morgan. Remember the man who saw a problem, invented a solution, and changed our world for the better, even when the world refused to acknowledge him. His story is a powerful reminder that history is often incomplete, and it is up to us to seek out the truth and give credit where it is so profoundly due. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more hidden histories. Let me know in the comments what other forgotten figures we should talk about next. See you in the next one.